Ferrari is set to bring massive upgrades to their car in the first half of the season, and it seems like the Maranello team means business with their new concept of their Challenger, entering the season in a very competitive manner and finishing on the podium twice in 2 races means that they are indeed the second fastest team on the grid. But their ultimate goal would be to challenge the RB20 more frequently for wins. So with this in mind, what are the upgrades that Ferrari are bringing in the next couple of races? And more importantly, are they enough to dethrone Verstappen after he's won both of the races with a double-digit lead compared to the Scuderia drivers? Ferrari has entered the 2024 season according to their plan, being the second fastest team on the grid. But according to Vasseur, this is just the first step of what the team is planning to do throughout the entire course of the season. The team has gotten rid of some old flaws from the previous challenges, and they're now focused on bringing upgrades to the new version of the car, which could be done in a much easier manner, given the fact that the SF24 is not restricted anymore by the structure of its chassis or the gearbox concept. The first upgrades that are planned on the SF24 should come around the Japanese Grand Prix, which is the first massive change in weather conditions, given the fact that the upcoming race in Australia will also present a huge challenge to the cooling of the engines. The more conventional design of the SF24 in the first 3 races has been brought in order for Ferrari to understand the benefit of their upgrades during the winter period. But now it's time to build on this foundation, and according to a report from Formula Uno, the Maranello team is going to change a lot on the car and be quite competitive compared to the RB20. Talking about this in further detail, the report wrote, Ferrari started with a conventional SF24 to check that they understood the full downwash concept well, but in the tunnel there is a more extreme version. Fewer upgrades are coming towards Suzuka. Then an updated aero looks towards Imola, which should bring a lot of surprises to the grid. Imola is the race that every Ferrari fan should mark on their calendar, because the Maranello team will be working on a new sidepod design as well as a new floor for the car. If you recall correctly, the team was prevented from applying these types of upgrades to the SF23, which was the previous version of the car, due to the architectural limits that the chassis and the concept of the car applied to the Challenger. But now Ferrari is more than adamant that the base that they have set for 2023's winter break is more than enough for them to build a competitive machinery to fight Red Bull up front. As of now, very good news comes from the cooling of the engine, as Ferrari did not report any major issues in this department, which is one of the main problems for Mercedes, a team that went on to change the entire philosophy of the car and is currently learning a lot about it. This doesn't mean that Ferrari won't opt to change this part in the future, as the openings of the radiators will now be narrow and will follow a path that was previously set by their fiercest rivals, Red Bull, in Hungary last year. This change was done in order to increase the effect of the undercut of the side pods, enabling the car to extract more aerodynamic performance, due to the cooler temperatures in Japan and in the following races. The cooling of the engines won't be the #1 imperative, as it is in races like Jeddah, Bahrain and Australia. And this could help the team in its pursuit of aerodynamic performance to a further extent, as Ferrari will follow a development path that has been embraced by the RB19, the car that basically every team has modelled their Challenger after in 2024. According to Formula Uno, a portal very close to Ferrari, one of the first developments that the SF24 will see is the aggressive inlets of the side pods. And this could be done thanks to the fact that the engineers back in Maranello were able to understand that there are no critical issues in managing the cooling of the engine, despite them bringing a lot of aggressive solutions in terms of the airbox design. What this enables the team to do is push performance in the wind tunnel without facing all of the cooling issues from last year. And if we're to judge by these early statements from Ferrari as well as the media close to the team, we should be looking at a very competitive version of the SF24 that should arrive very early in the season, providing us with a lot of entertaining races in 2024 and potentially setting the stage for a championship fighting year in 2025 once Hamilton joins forces with Leclerc. The most important thing to understand here is that Ferrari has a solid base to work on. This is practically what prevented them from achieving results with the upgrades they brought in the previous years. However, the engineers back in Maranello are now convinced that the current design and philosophy of the car help them understand the mechanical and aerodynamic concepts much more, and they open an array of opportunities in which they could be bringing a lot of performance to, and challenge Red Bull in the process of doing so. This just points towards the fact that Hamilton knew what he was doing all along when he signed the contract for 2025. But that is a topic for a different video. What we want to talk about is whether or not Ferrari will have a chance of beating Verstappen in 2024, considering the massive advantage the 3-time world champion had in the first 2 opening races of the season. If Ferrari wants to fix the issues that they've seen in 2024, they need to understand them first, which is exactly what they've done. In Bahrain, Leclerc had a brake issue that prevented him from pushing the car to the absolute extreme, because it prevented the brakes from working at an optimal level when being applied with maximum pressure. and that cost him a spot against his teammate Sainz. And what the team heavily believes is that there is some potential that they couldn't have unlocked in Saudi Arabia due to the conventional design of the car, which is something that is bound to change in the upcoming races. When talking about the upgrades that are coming into the pipeline after Jeddah, Vasseur went on to say, "We already have some new parts. In fact, there is already an Evo version of the SF24 in the wind tunnel, more advanced than the current 1.0 version's concept. It's no secret that the challenges that we're currently seeing on the grid will undergo massive changes in the foreseeable future due to the evolution of the track's nature, and while Ferrari would apply small upgrades in April, it doesn't mean that they will have small significance too. Quite the contrary, the Maranello team is expected to make some tweaks and extract as much performance as possible and show both Loic Serra and Lewis Hamilton that they've made the right choice to join them from 2025 onwards. Although Ferrari is looking forward to improving their car in the 2024 season, it doesn't mean that it will be done without consequences. For example, Sainz himself said that he won't be participating in the development of the car because the team won't count on him for logical and practical reasons. He could be bringing all of those upgrades to the next team he goes to in 2025. And if we're to judge by the first race in Bahrain, Sainz will do anything but step back and let Leclerc have his go at the team, because there's lots of opportunities that are waiting for him from 2025 onwards, and he's on a mission himself. So all of these upgrades would subsequently help his mission as well, even though he might not be part of it after all. Rob Smedley, a former engineer at Ferrari, has expressed his feelings when it comes to Ferrari taking the fight to Red Bull, and according to him, the fact that Ferrari had the second fastest car for a couple of years in a row means that they are extremely close. They just need a driver of Hamilton's caliber to push them in the right direction. However, from 2025 onwards, the power duo of Leclerc and Hamilton is also prone to lots of challenges, and considering the fact that Hamilton is not really having any allies from Mercedes join with him, it could very well be a power struggle as to who would lead the team into the new era, as Leclerc would prove to be a tough nut to crack for the 7-time world champion. But what Ferrari needs to decide right now is whether or not they'll prioritise their drivers now that they're entering the last season of being teammates. And this is always a downside when it comes to having two very competitive drivers in one team. Logic says that Leclerc should be the driver who would be prioritised, but even with the car having a style and design that he would find more appealing for his liking, it was Sainz who managed to score a podium in Bahrain and show that he's not here to step down at any given point throughout the season. What Ferrari needs to show is that their drivers have what it takes to win races and championships once presented with the right machinery, and if Sainz manages to do so in 2024, then he would be making a very strong case for himself from 2025 onwards. As according to reports, the negotiations with Mercedes have already started, and he could be proving to the Maranello team that the issue is not him, but in the car they gave him. With this in mind, do you think that Ferrari has what it takes to challenge Red Bull more frequently for wins in 2024? And if so, which driver do you think will have the upper edge in doing so? Let us know in the comments below.